Alright guys, welcome back to Urge. Moving on in the subclass series into the next subclass, which is the Circle of Stars Druid.
Indeed.
So, if you're new to the channel or to the subclass series, what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of the abilities gained in this subclass. Then we're going to rate it based on its roleplay value, combat value, and overall class synergy, based on how the abilities gained in the subclass improve on the base class abilities.
Yep.
So, without any further ado, Alex, take it away.
Circle of the Stars Druid. Think of a future telling, read the leaves kind of theme to it. You get a star chart. Is a tiny object of your choice. Gives you a little flavor for suggestion of how you want the map to be formed. Mechanically, you get the Guidance Cantrip for free. You get the Guiding Bolt spell prepared for free. And you can cast the Guiding Bolt spell without expending a spell slot. You can do so a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all those uses when you finish a long rest.
That's a lot of spells.
So that's up
spells.
to 6 free level 1 damages and a good level 1 damage spell at that, because the damage plus the advantage on the next attack against him. If you lose your star map, 1 hour ceremony to magically recreate a replacement for said star map.
Fair enough.
And then things get real fun. You also have the use of a starry form, also at level 2. As a bonus action, you can use your, one of your wild shape uses to enter a starry form of choice. You get a 10-foot radius of dim light, and then an additional, 10 feet of, bright light, 10 feet, and additional 10 feet of dim light. And it lasts for 10 minutes unless you dismiss it early, incapacitate, die, or you choose to use this feature again, of course. You have 3 choices, 3 different forms. One is the Archer, which essentially allows you to make a ranged spell attack as a bonus action on any creature within 60 feet of you. On a hit, it's a 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier, wisdom modifier, radiant damage. So, which is essentially a spiritual weapon at a ranged spell attack as a bonus action.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. No complaints here. Then you have Chalice. Whenever you cast a spell that uses a spell slot and restores hit points. Man, I can't talk today for nothing. Yourself or another creature within 30 feet of you regain additional hit points equal to 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier. So a Cure Wound spell, just for free. Or you can take the Dragon form. When you make an intelligence or a wisdom check or a constitution saving throw to maintain concentration or dispel, you can treat any roll of a 9 or lower on the d20 as a 10. So a reliable talent for 2 different checks or a con saving throw for constitution, for your concentration spell checks. So 3 different interesting choices for different situations.
Yes, indeed. Then at level 6, we have Cosmic Omen. When you finish a long rest, you can consult your star map. You roll a die. And then, until you finish your next long rest, you gain access to a special reaction based on what you rolled, even or odd, on the die. So, if you rolled even, which is wheel, whenever a creature you can see within 30 feet of you is about to make an attack roll, a saving throw, or an ability check, you can use your reaction to roll a d6 and add the number rolled to the total. Or, if you rolled odd, which is a woe, when you see a creature within 30 feet about to make an attack roll, saving throw, or ability check, use reaction to roll a d6 and subtract it from the total. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you gain all uses on a long rest. So you're either going to be buffing or debuffing attacks, saving throws, or ability checks with a d6.
It's essentially a mini bardic inspiration.
Yes.
It's back on a long rest and a short rest, but still.
Yes, definitely interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then at level 10, we have Twinkling Constellations. The constellations of your starry form improve. The d8 of the Archer and Chalice becomes 2d8. And while the Dragon is active, you have flying speed of 20 feet and can hover. Also, at the start of each of your turns while in starry form, you can change which constellation glimmers around your body. So you can shift forms based on the need instead of having to reuse another
wild shape.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of utility there and a little bit of extra healing and damage potential. And then lastly, at level 14, we have Full of Stars. While in your starry form, you become partially incorporeal, giving you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Full stop.
Full stop.
Not
non-magical sources.
Non-magical.
All
piercing,
BPS.
and slashing. That is a big differential from a lot of abilities that actually grant that, where it just grants it to all of that damage type. So definitely interesting on the survivability there.
And I emphasize that when you pop this ability, it does last for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There is no combat that mechanically will last for longer than 10 minutes.
Dead if it's less.
So basically, once you hit that level 10 of Twinkling Constellation, you're gonna have one use. Use it once per combat as far as your one use of Wild Shape, and you can switch it as you need. Once per turn.
Yes. So those are all the abilities gained in the subclass. We'll move on into the rating portion. First up with the roleplay value, asterisk as always. We're talking about the roleplay value. We're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order. Not talking about your class fantasy, history, background, lore. That is on you as a player. Can't rate you as a player. We can only rate the abilities gained in the subclass and how they might improve your potential in certain circumstances. So, by looking at the abilities gained in the subclass, there's a couple things to take note of here. There are some limited uses of roleplay with the Cosmic Omen and Story Form, which only lasts 10 minutes. But, that being said, it can be used in certain circumstances, especially when you start to get the ability to fly. Or if you have a concentration spell that you're using for whatever RP purpose, to have advantage on that, maybe some things like around you, like a story in a storm or something, and it's hurting you, you're trying to maintain that concentration, stuff like that. There's definitely some niche uses for some of that. And also indirectly, something we like to comment on a lot. It feels like in this book it's come up a lot more, where you get indirect buffs to RP, where you're getting extra spell slots or being able to give spell slots back to people or things like that.
Right, yeah.
So getting Guiding Bolt is going to free up extra level 1 spell slots.
Correct.
Which you can use for other purposes, and maybe not worry so much about the combat side of your spellcasting, because you're going to have those extra uses of Guiding Bolt, which are going to help your party.
You've got just a pocket full of Guiding Bolts.
Right. Like you basically have a wand of Guiding Bolts.
Yes.
That's just
available. It's like a pocket full of sunshine, but it's a pocket full of Guiding Bolts.
And another thing, too, is pretty much all the abilities are going to give you like small, maybe some niche RP uses in each of the abilities, except for your level 14 Capstone ability, because, BPS,
just damage resistance. Yeah.
Not going to really do a whole lot for you there. Yep. So, all of that being said, I thought it was pretty well balanced on here, but nothing too crazy, so we just went with a 3.5 on the roleplay value. So, pretty solid.
Yeah. On the combat side of things, we both really like this. I really like this for one reason only: options. I like options and I like choices. And not only does it let you have the choice to originally just use a wild shape use to change situation, but once you hit level 10, you don't have to reuse a wild shape use to change your form. It just lets you start of every turn. Like, you know what? We've done some good damage. Everybody's starting to get low. So you know what? I'm going to switch over to the Chalice form. Start dumping out some super heals in a hurry. Yeah. So that's going to be really, really nice. Overall, to do this in the correct order. Again, the both active and passive help of Guiding Bolt for free. Yep. One of the better offensive spells, because 46 to a single target is not bad at all for a level 1 spell slot by itself. Yeah. But you also give the advantage on the next attack against it. Man, do rogues love the the Guiding Bolt before their turn. But yeah, just being able to, knowing you have the Guiding Bolts in the pocket, it allows you to free up spells for healing in combat. Other maybe CC spells. Druids get a lot of crowd control spells. I think stuff like Fairy Fire, things like that. Right. That you have no problem using, because you've got those Guiding Bolts for damage in the pocket. Starry Form, you have both an offensive and a defensive choice, as well as a utility choice that will later gives you flying speed, which we'll get to. So the fact again that there's a choice. It's a ranged spell attack. 60 foot's a good range, and even if the damage didn't scale, that would still be helpful at all levels. Right. And the same thing with the healing. It's just free. Doesn't cost you anything extra. There's no extra spell slots or no extra things used. Just use your wild shape.
Onto your.
Because again, if you're not playing Circle of the Moon Druid, your ability to use your wild shape to be in combat and use that. Right. It's not going to be viable, because you can't turn it into animals and creatures that are high enough CR to really be impactful to use it that way. Yeah. This changes that. You become, dang our WoW references, you become a boomkin. Pretty much. A resto druid that way. And I love the fact that, and this book has done some of that too, kind of borrowing abilities from other subclasses. The Cosmic Omen being able to either buff your allies' attacks, saving throws, ability checks, or debuff enemies, cutting words kind of thing. Because the buffing the allies is great, but I really like the hurting the enemies thing because that's a little that the debuff is even more uncommon.
Yeah,
outside of like even just some bard subclasses. So I really like that.
Though it is up to the faiths. 50% chance every day. Do you want to
right, sure. But you know at the start of the day what it's going to be. It's
Right.
not like, and you can then plan accordingly how you want to use it. Of course, Constellation just buffs all this more stuff, more damage, more healing, and you get to fly. Great. And then just a flat damage reduction. We went like 4.5 out of a possible 5. Probably the only thing that keeps it from being a 5 is you can't control the odds and evens thing. If it was an either or, if it was just total number of usage, that would help. Help it out some.
I think another thing too is you don't actually gain any spells. You don't get like a couple spells every couple levels. So that's I guess the payment for all of these.
Yeah, there's no circle spells.
Right. So that is what it is. I guess that's it. Kind of balances out, I guess, because being able to just. But the thing is too, you already have lots of access to utility spells. Like druids have lots of options with concentration spells. So having that reliable talent is pretty solid. For sure.
Yeah, wall of fire over here, grasping roots over here.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
Erupting earth over here.
I think too the full BPS resistance, not just non-magical, is
again
it is level 14, but I mean that's never going to be a bad thing.
No,
to have.
it's not gonna. Again, it's a 10-minute thing. Once you pop Starry Form, you're in there for 10 minutes. Nothing can knock you out of it. It's not like a Barbarian's Rage. You don't take damage or do damage, you lose it. Yeah, it's just there. Yeah. It's just there. So, I mean, again, and a lot of stuff still does bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Even the biggest, baddest monsters in the world, they do a lot of it.
Right.
But that's even going to make it more impactful. That Ancient Dragon hits you with a claw for whatever the amount of damage is, 4d10 plus 15 slashing damage, and it hits for 35 a turn, and that becomes 17. It's a lot more manageable.
Yeah. You'll stay alive, and you won't worry about it too much. But all that being said, move on to the last section, which is the overall class synergy. So with druids, again, some of the big things with druids are going to be your wild shape and spell casting, as you are a full spellcaster. So those are some interesting things on there. With the starry form having a very heavy synergy with wild shape, as Alex said, you're probably not going to be using wild shape too much as another druid besides this druid, Circle of the Moon, or Circle of Spores druid, because they actually can use wild shape for their little infestation circle thing too. So getting a different option to use your wild shape,
and a very good option.
Yes, you're changing forms, but not into a beast. So it's going to really make you buff into an empowered caster essentially. So it's like an alternate version to Circle of the Land, druid. So it gives you another option for that, which is interesting. Also, again, the concentration can be, like we mentioned earlier, can be a huge thing because you do have access to lots of concentration spells as a druid.
Yeah, a lot of your battle control affecting spells, like the ones we've already listed, walls, sleet storms, things like that, require concentration.
Yeah, so you're never gonna just go to waste.
Yeah, and it helps those have extended value because you're much less likely to break your concentration.
Exactly.
So even choosing that may seem like that's not the exciting extra damage or extra healing. It might be just as effective.
Right. But I mean, too, once you get to level 10, you can swap it. You can be using the extra damage thing or the healing, depending on what the circumstances, and then you're going to cast a concentration spell, and then you swap to that. Yep. So you're good to go. So you're going to have that buff there, and especially if you get into your Warcaster and all that stuff there, you're just going to have even more options where you can reaction Guiding Bolt like a good amount of times.
All the time.
You're going to have plenty of uses with that. So all that being said, we went with a 3.5 on the synergy. Solid. But again, there are some things that I think were taken away as payment, sacrificed to be able to have this subclass.
Like the whole list of circle spells, for example?
Yes. Yeah. So you don't have any extra spells prepared, so you have to be extra careful with what you prepare each day, as you're not going to have just extra list of stuff.
You don't have the 10 free spells like Circle of the Land.
So you got to be a little bit more careful. So it is definitely very cool, very interesting. I really love this one. It's probably thematically one of my favorites out of this book. I really like it a lot.
And thematically, my favorite druid as a whole.
Yes. So all that being said, before we wrap it up for this one, Tasha says something about each of the subclasses.
She does.
So we'll take a moment and see what she says about that. What she says about this one.
So Tasha asked a question of the Circle of Stars Druids. What about the dark places between the stars? Don't you realize that's where the good stuff is?
All the flavors.
Indeed.
So guys, that's going to wrap it up for this one. So if you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications to know if our new videos are coming out. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.